I laid my head on the pillow, hoping to spend the night in silence. I turned off the lights, and the only source of light in the room was the faint moonlight seeping through the window. The night seemed like just another period of time meant for sleep, but tonight was different. As I closed my eyes, a strange silence descended upon the room. Normally, I could always hear the sounds of the forest surrounding my house, but now there was nothing. The gentle breeze rustled the curtains by the window, but there were no other sounds. Suddenly, odd thoughts born of sleeplessness crept into my mind. I felt like I could hear faint footsteps moving around inside the house. I opened my eyes quickly, but there was no one in the room. Just me. A cold sweat broke out, and I pulled my blanket up to my chin. The room remained eerily quiet, but I knew something was wrong. I was just waiting in fear. All of a sudden, I heard a soft, shallow breath coming from the edge of my bed. I turned and opened my eyes in the darkness. A silhouette was standing beside my bed. It was vague, but it had a faint human shape. "Who's there?" I asked, my voice trembling, but there was no response. The silhouette slowly approached my bed with each step. The atmosphere in the room grew heavier. My heart raced, and I didn't know what to do. Finally, the silhouette reached the edge of my bed and disappeared behind the curtains. The curtains rustled, and then silence returned. I took a breath for a moment and then quickly jumped out of bed, running out of the room. I turned on all the lights in the house, but there was no one there. After that night, sleeping alone in the dark was no longer an option. What was that mysterious entity? Why had it found me? Maybe it was a reminder that we are never truly alone at night. Or perhaps it was just the product of a nightmare. But tonight, just like every night since then, I won't be able to sleep alone without thinking about the mysteries behind that night. As the clock passed midnight, a deep silence enveloped the town. Sarah, exhausted from her day at work, lay down in her bed. The silence of her room began to wrap around her as her eyes slowly closed. But on that night, as Sarah attempted to enter the realm of dreams, she felt an unsettling presence. It was as if she could hear someone breathing softly within the confines of her bedroom. She opened her eyes, yet there was no one to be seen. Nothing but silence filled the room. She closed her eyes again, trying to control her breathing. Perhaps it was just her own breath that she had heard, she thought. However, at that moment, she heard a faint hissing sound from the other side of the room. Sarah jumped out of bed in panic, her eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness as she scanned the room, and there she saw two points of light glowing brightly. The lights disappeared for a moment, then reappeared. Sarah's heart raced. "Who's there?" she yelled, but received no answer. The lights vanished again, and this time the room was engulfed in silence. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered to life, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Beneath the lights, she scoured every corner of the bedroom but found no one. After a while, with trembling hands, Sarah picked up her phone and called the police. The fear inside her had not dissipated, and she was determined to get to the bottom of the mysterious presence. When the police arrived, they searched the house but found nothing. Sarah's story was strange and chilling, yet there were no traces or evidence. The house appeared to be secure. But Sarah knew she could never sleep alone in that room again. Word of the mysterious occurrences spread through the town, with some claiming similar experiences, but no one knew the truth of what had happened. The days that followed Sarah's eerie encounter were filled with an unshakable sense of unease. She couldn't rid herself of the feeling that she was being watched, even in the daylight. Her nights became sleepless as she feared the return of the enigmatic presence that had haunted her. As weeks passed, Sarah decided to take matters into her own hands. She contacted a local paranormal investigator who had a reputation for unraveling mysteries that defied explanation. Together, they delved into the history of her house and the surrounding area, searching for any clues that might explain the strange occurrences. Their research led them to a dark secret buried in the town's past. It turned out that the land on which Sarah's house stood had once been the site of a long-forgotten cemetery where restless souls had been laid to rest in unmarked graves. The investigators speculated that perhaps one of these lost spirits had awakened and found its way into Sarah's home, determined to put an end to the paranormal disturbances. Sarah and the investigator conducted a cleansing ritual in the house, hoping to release any trapped spirits and bring peace to the troubled souls. The night of the ritual was tense, with the air thick with anticipation, but as they completed the ceremony, a profound sense of calm washed over the house. From that night on, Sarah was finally able to sleep soundly in her room. The oppressive feeling of being watched had vanished, and the mysterious presence was gone. It seemed that they had succeeded in appeasing the restless spirit that had tormented her. The town's residents, too, found relief in the newfound tranquility that had returned to the area. The memory of the enigmatic events would linger, but Sarah's bravery in confronting the unknown had restored a sense of peace to her home and the entire community. Jessica was about to spend her first night in the old mansion. She had just moved into the historical and mysterious atmosphere of the house had enchanted her. However, her first night would not go as expected. As she lay down in bed, the dim light of her room enveloping her, she felt that something was amiss. The large mirror in the corner of the room seemed to be moving on its own. At first, she couldn't believe it, but the mirror was clearly shifting. With hesitation, Jessica sat up in bed and approached the mirror. It was moving slowly, as if being pushed by an unseen hand, yet there was no one else in the room. She recoiled in alarm, and the mirror continued to move. "This place is not safe for anyone," Jessica shouted, but the mirror paid no heed to her voice and kept moving. Finally, it crashed into the wall, shattering into pieces on the floor. At that moment, a strange laughter echoed through the house. Jessica quickly got out of bed and rushed out of her room. As she roamed the hallways of the house, she heard strange sounds and whispers, but she couldn't see anyone. She hurriedly went outside and sought refuge with her neighbors. The next day, she shared the events with her neighbors, but none of them had experienced anything similar. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Jessica decided to call in a paranormal investigator. The investigator, after researching the history of the house, found signs of the presence of the ghosts of former residents. At night, strange events were happening all over the house. Furniture was rearranging itself. Doors were closing suddenly, and mysterious shadows were appearing. The investigator believed that the ghosts in the house were angered and trying to help rectify an injustice from the past. Jessica and the investigator uncovered a series of negative events in the house's history. To right these wrongs, they conducted a series of rituals. Over time, the strange occurrences in the house gradually decreased. Eventually, it seemed that the house's ghosts had found peace. Jessica could now sleep peacefully in her home, feeling like she had unraveled the mystery of the past. However, just when Jessica thought that the ordeal was over, the eerie events began to resurface. The restless spirits in the house seemed determined to regain their grip on her life. Jessica couldn't understand why the entities had returned. Despite their efforts to appease them, she contacted the paranormal investigator once more, and together, they decided to conduct a more in-depth investigation of the mansion. Leaving no stone unturned, their search led them to a hidden attic, a place Jessica had never ventured before. The attic was filled with old, dusty belongings, and in the corner they discovered a collection of journals. As they began to read through the journals, they uncovered a chilling story. The journals belonged to the former owner of the mansion, a wealthy and enigmatic man named Edward. It turned out that Edward had a dark secret. He had been involved in a series of sinister rituals and had summoned malevolent spirits into the house in pursuit of power and immortality. Jessica and the investigator realized that the cursed rituals Edward had performed were the source of their troubles. The spirits were bound to the mansion by dark forces, and they would stop at nothing to torment the living. To put an end to the malevolent entities, Jessica and the investigator embark on a quest to break the curse once and for all. Their journey took them deep into the mysteries of the occult and required them to confront the vengeful spirits head-on. In a dramatic and harrowing confrontation, they faced the malevolent spirits in a final battle. Through a combination of ancient rituals and sheer determination, they managed to break the curse that had bound the spirits to the mansion. As the curse shattered, the malevolent entities dissipated, vanishing into the ether. The mansion, once plagued by darkness, was finally cleansed. Jessica could now sleep soundly at night, and the house had returned to a state of tranquility. The townspeople, who had been aware of the mansion's haunted reputation, marveled at the transformation. Jessica's bravery and determination had not only saved her own life, but also restored peace to the once dreaded mansion. Emily decided to live in an old farmhouse, seeking peace and tranquility away from the town. However, this silence would not be as calm as she had hoped. One night, as Emily lay quietly in bed, she began to hear the creaking of the house's boards. At first, she dismissed it as the normal sounds of an old farmhouse, but the noises grew louder and more irregular. She slowly opened her eyes. She scanned the room in the faint moonlight that filtered in. Suddenly, an old mirror in one corner of her room caught her attention. The surface of the mirror gleamed eerily. Emily approached it cautiously. The mirror not only reflected her image, but also displayed the image of another place, one that appeared eerie and dark. Emily recoiled in horror. Strange, Faint breathing sounds seemed to emanate from within the mirror. "Who's there?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. But there was no response from the mirror. Suddenly, a dark hand reached out from within the mirror toward her. Emily screamed and fell back in her bed. The hand quickly retreated, and the mirror returned to its original state. The room was once again engulfed in silence. The next day, Emily didn't tell anyone about the incident. However, strange occurrences in the house increased. Objects vanished, doors opened on their own, and eerie shadows roamed the rooms. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Emily decided to call a paranormal investigator. After researching the history of the house, the investigator found clues about the ghosts of former residents. He believed that Emily's experiences were traces of the lives of these former residents. Together, they performed a series of rituals to calm the spirits in the house and bring them peace. Living alone at night began to feel less frightening. However, this old farmhouse, forever shrouded in an unforgettable mystery, would continue to carry the stories of the past spirits